They tend to choose avoidance rather than possibility.
You need someone from the outside to see the things that you can't.
Instead of just doing more, it's like, how can we strategize where our energy is in line so that the results happen more efficiently? We are more free to explore our boundaries when we're inside of a framework and structure.
You will only go as far as you're willing to receive support. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Evolve Your Brand podcast. I'm your host, Dave Gold, and on today's live interview episode, I've got Alessandro Sciaraffa of Alessandro Sciaraffa Coaching.
Thanks, brother.
Thanks for coming on. I'm doing great. I'm glad we actually made this happen. There's been a lot of things coming on, so it's beautiful to actually go create this episode with you today.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. First thing I want to ask is, you're originally from Italy.
Yeah.
I'm wondering which part of Italy you grew up in, and how did tennis become such a big part of your life? Because growing up for me, tennis was a big part of mine. I didn't get to the level I think that you've gotten to, and I'm wondering what that was like to become a professional athlete and then start training and coaching other professional athletes as well.
Big question. I appreciate you. Thank you for hosting this. So I grew up in between, in south of Italy called Calabria, in a small city called Cosenza, which is like I don't know if there's only 10, 20,000 people there, but not many people. And we lived on a side of a village of a mountain. And I actually lived between London and Italy. So a lot of my tennis was played in London. And to answer your question about how was it, going through tennis and becoming a professional, I actually knew I wanted to coach around 12 years old when I had some experiences happening in my family and my upbringing that influenced me. And so I was already coaching at 16 and I was playing. I moved to Spain around 17 years old to commit to being pro and commit to being a pro coach.
Which part of Spain?
There's a place called Sotogrande.
Sotogrande, is that where Nadal was playing? Or
No.
Who was there? Juan Carlos Ferrero?
There was, at the time, there was some junior Wimbledon winners. My good friend at the time, Daniel Kiernan, is a British #1 doubles player. He set up an academy and he invited me there to coach and to train. So that's where it all kicked off. 17 years old, started taking it.
Interesting. Yeah, for me, tennis became a big part of my life around the age of 10. When I first started playing tennis, I really hated it. I would go to the country club where my grandmother would play tennis up until 97 and golf, and just didn't vibe with the coach, who was very intense. And then I ended up finding these tennis coaches that made learning the sport much more fun. There were drills, there were games, there were things that really helped me to look at tennis not just as a sport, but as an outlet for the things that were going on in my house, in my mind, in my experience of life as a child. And I got to the point where I was #1 on my tennis team, stringing rackets, coaching other tennis players, but especially helping the community and giving back to the community through tennis, which was really huge.
Nice.
I also was playing against some guys that have become pro, like Bjorn Fratangelo, and you've got the UCLA hat on. I was coached by Frank Carlton, whose daughter was playing #1 at UCLA and whose sons were playing at Wake Forest and Duke. And what I'm wondering is, what have you seen is the difference between someone that played a sport intensely growing up and wanted to become pro versus someone that actually went through that process and became a professional, but not only a professional, a successful professional athlete?
Yeah, I mean, the short answer is fear and bravery. That's the short answer. But to explain that, because a lot of people do actually have what it takes, but when they start to explore what that's going to sound like, look like, feel like, they're like, I'm scared, basically. Do I want to go down that? And they start projecting out the suffering rather than actually looking forward to the rewards. So they tend to choose avoidance rather than possibility, and that influences their decision. So that's the short answer. But I guess the more expansive answer is, from what I've seen, I managed to get myself in a state as a coach where excellency was just a part of my nature. So I was being hired by Grand Slam champion teams, people who had already won slams, multiple slams, who were number one in the world, WTA and ATP. So I got to learn from the source about, you know, what it actually takes. So what I learned, it's more about this identity that you have as someone who accepts certain things and doesn't accept. So non-negotiables, really. Non-negotiables, and they're with yourself first. So before a Grand Slam coach or someone like would even sniff you or pick you up to say, come on my team, you already have to be vibrating on that kind of excellency. Yeah. And I guess, if I'm honest, I don't know where I learned that from. I kind of had that growing up. My father was like a semi-pro soccer player. Yeah. Squash player, amazing squash player. I was always hanging out with people older than me, athletes. I was playing rugby nationally, 100-meter track athlete nationally, around 11.6 as a 16-year-old. So like, I could have pursued many different avenues. So I guess it's just being around excellency as well. Yeah. But I think there's some sort of soul expression as well.
What did your parents think? Did they push you to become a professional athlete, or were they like, Alessandro, you can just do whatever your heart desires?
It was the latter, and that's what freed me up, I think. And my professional playing career was quite short-lived because I knew I wanted to be a coach, and I was more passionate about that. But I wanted to get inside the head of a pro and live that life, to empathize and understand, and I still do now. So I still train like a professional, like I'm going to compete if I have the means to. Just to keep my head inside of their minds, to empathize. So yeah, they were really like, do what you love. That was the metaphor.
Yeah. So who did you learn from growing up? Like, who was your coach, and was there anything that you remember about the coaching experiences that you had growing through the ranks that really impacted you to becoming the person that you are today?
Yes, there was one guy who's quite well known in tennis circles called Emilio Sanchez. He was number 1 ATP doubles, number 7 singles, one of McEnroe's rivals. On YouTube you can find him playing McEnroe on the US Open. And yeah, he was just like self-mastery. He had mastered himself. So being around him, the dialogue is very slow, like to speak, and selective, passionate. And also very good at correcting someone or challenging you, when you're in your bullshit, when you're in your patterns. So pattern interrupting, but very subtly. I remember one little story when I was training at his facility in Naples, Florida. I was hitting the ball just with one of the coaches, and he shouts, he's just walking, he just shouts from across the way. He said, "Hey, the ball's hitting you, my friend." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" The ball's hit. He just random, he doesn't even looking, but he said, "The ball's hitting you." So if you're a type of individual that takes on feedback and you have a reference point like Emilio and you believe what he says, then you're actually going to ingest that, ruminate on it and apply it. So, the ball hitting me, I wasn't going towards the ball, I wasn't imposing myself. So I took it like that. And then in the next, he came and watched the next point, and I made sure I did what he said. And obviously I had a way different transformational result. So that was one that sticks in my head. He's a great guy.
Yeah. Wow. Very, very interesting. And it brings me back to some moments in my childhood, but also even a recent memory, because I moved to Portugal and I saw this sport, paddle. I didn't even know what it was at the time. Yeah. And I had stopped playing tennis, and so I thought, let's give this a try. And it quickly caught on. And so in Porto, I started training really intensely with a coach and with players that were better than me. And I have this video up on my Instagram of one of the coaches saying to me, "You are too slow. You don't move your feet. You don't get low enough." And it really helped me to push myself. And then there was the progression throughout that lesson. And I found my partner and we started winning. Yeah. And there is something about playing a sport like tennis where muscle memory and learning through failure and working with players that are better than you is so important. So how do you surround yourself with people who are constantly pushing you in life and who are helping you to create a higher level of excellence?
Yeah, great question. I mean, if you believe in kind of more esoteric principles, everything is just a reflection of you. So how do I surround myself with those people? I don't try to. You just embody what it is to be at that level, and then you end up having people match your frequency. So, and what's interesting about your example, the guy saying, you're too slow, you get down lower, right? I think that's all to do with kind of ego dissolution. When we can't see our own challenges and we can't actually visibly see them, that means we are identifying with them. We've got no conception that we're even not low enough or not strong enough or too slow. So ego dissolution is someone else pointing it out to you so you can get out of that identity and then start to actually embody, who you're supposed to be. You're supposed to be a pro, supposed to be a champion. But if you can do that for yourself, I think that's where it leads to being surrounded by other people like that.
You need someone from the outside to see the things that you can't. And that has been one of the biggest realizations for me, that yes, you are your own best coach. And at times, maybe it's good to not have a coach and to really integrate the lessons that you've learned from others. However, you will only go as far as you're willing to receive support in life.
Very true.
And you asked me before, what is this book about, The Ultimate Coach? And you talked about your coach and how it was all about embodying that new way, that new identity, that identity of a champion.
Yeah.
And so Steve Hardison is one of the most impactful coaches, I guess, in the history of this industry, because he talks about who would you need to be a more loving person, be a more effective person, or also be a champion. So who do you think someone needs to become in order to become a champion in their business, their relationships, or in their life?
Yeah, I mean, to answer your question directly, it's to become an authoritative figure, someone who has their own sovereignty, where they have mastery over themselves, someone who's disciplined, compassionate. I was writing about this today, about the middle road, not high or low. It's not celebration or despair. It's acknowledgement and gratitude, and that's it. Acknowledge the good things. Don't get despaired about the other ones. Just acknowledge them, be grateful, keep moving. So that's quite an important thing that I've learned about the characteristics, for sure.
So we've come together and linked up here in Tulum, Mexico.
Yes.
A very interesting place to live in the world. It's a spiritual hotspot. There's a lot of high performers that congregate here.
Yeah.
In the winter time, there's a lot of activities, events, even parties. Why have you decided to come to Tulum and find a nice place to stay and live here?
Yeah, I mean, it's like a sanctuary place for me, things that I like: nature, I like community, the weather, obviously, beach, just nature really, so that I can ground myself, because, I mean, people, your audience will know, even us at times, we're not easy to deal with at times. So
good observation, Alessandro.
So coaches like us, I'm getting prepared for roles and people that I'm coaching currently, and I want to be rooted in something that I know is me, so that I don't get too sucked into what they're going through. Because remember, the people that kind of seek coaching, they're looking to go past their current limits. So where they currently are might be rooted in some sort of, lack mindset or despair or something. So for me, I have to be anchored, strong enough, especially on the tour, by the way. On the ATP WTA tour, that environment is very ego-driven, results-driven, external validation driven, so the reactions are very dramatic.
Is it very distracting as well? Are there many distractions? Like, let's say you're a single male tennis player on the tour. You've got the tournament and the players that are in your tournament, but then you've also got maybe the women's side and there are women, and then you've maybe got a doubles partner who wants to go out and have a meal together. Like, what do the most successful players, like Federer or Nadal or Djokovic, or who's someone that you've coached that's been really successful? What have they done in order to remain grounded in that intensity of consistently traveling and being around so many people?
I guess I was working once with the #1 junior in the world. He's now around 50 in the world men's. And to be honest, that question, it wouldn't even come to him. That's not really even in his field. So that already tells you some of the type of caliber of people out there, where their priorities lie, what they're even tuned into. So I think that question is good, because I know a few people that have been tuned into distractions, so they get given distractions, you know. Obviously, with the guy I worked with, he's going to have his own personal distractions, more to do with mastery. So, you know, what distracts him from being a master. Whereas maybe someone else, it might be they might already be like, feel like a high strength sense of self-mastery, and their distractions are, women.
So if he's not distracted, what would like a normal day look like in the life of a professional tennis player?
I mean, you get up, you do your sunrise ritual, whatever that looks like for you, meditate, journal, move your body, stretch. They go get some treatment on their body. They do their morning routine of relaxation. They might have a quick chat with their coach about today's game plan, or they might have already had that the night before. Then you have your pre-warm-up session where you're just mobilizing your body, activating it, getting primed, go onto the court, have your first hit, followed by, you know, a little cool down and relaxation and some lunch, and because you're probably going to have 2 sessions in a day. Then you've got your second session and some gym work, conditioning. Depends if you're preparing for a tournament or you're just in a training block. But it's all day. It's all day self-improvement, all day self-mastery. The socializing, I guess, is the part that probably people get dissociated with. Tennis players, tennis athletes, they don't do much socializing, so their communication skills go down. They're not practiced on how to be with people. So that's one of the challenges I felt as well. Up until 24 years old, I had my first girlfriend, and I didn't even realize, like, I don't know how to communicate. I've not been around people. I've been so focused on myself.
Yes.
I've not been around people that much. Obviously, my students have been around. As a leader, communicating is different to as a like peer-to-peer.
Yeah.
So yeah, good question.
All right, so you're telling me about the communication and the social dynamics of a professional athlete. And to be honest, I went through that exact same thing. I was a virgin when I went to college, and I really didn't have great social skills, where all I was doing was playing tennis, and that was my focus growing up. And I got to the point where I dedicated 10 years of my life to communication, psychology, social dynamics, to the point that I started dating the women that I really wanted to date. Men started asking me for life advice, communication advice. What was it for you? Did you discover a YouTube channel or a book? How did you start to improve your communication and your mastery of life so that you've gone on to become one of the best coaches in the industry?
Thank you, my friend. I mean, one of the major things was that at 12 years old, what started for me to even be able to coach and be a leader, to communicate in that way, was my parents got divorced. So it was like an eye-opening experience for me, because I started to realize that there's a world, you know, beyond kind of like fairy tale life. You know, I was living between London and Calabria, so it was just perfect, right? And then it all collapsed. So I started to investigate a lot of things, like you said, investigate what are other people going through? Like, what is this empathy? I grew very empathetic with people for their worlds, their dreams that they had almost maybe collapsed, so it didn't seem possible. So I started to explore the psychology of behavioral psychology, child psychology. But this is, you know, I really started doing that around 16, and which led me to kind of have my thoughts all structured and framed where I could actually deliver them to people and actually coach. That's why I was coaching at 16 years old. But then the next catalyst was basically, my first romantic relationship, which was a beautiful one. Taught me a lot about, you know, having authority and power in your own self, having your own power, and be able to communicate in a way that you're going to get what you're looking for, but also that communicate to give other people an opportunity to get what they want.
Oh.
So yeah, that was a catalyst. That was a catalyst for sure. So I studied neurolinguistic programming.
Yep.
I had a life coaching diploma degree. I don't know what you call it, but
Did that help?
Yeah.
Was that like one of the catalysts to get you to where you are today?
That's a good question. It was in my journey, so yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because some people say you don't need a certification or a degree in order to become an amazing, impactful, and successful coach.
I agree with that.
And other people have some certification or a degree. So I think it really depends on who you ask. But what did you learn from that life coaching certification?
It was really a mirror. Just hold up a mirror. And it's about yourself. So you won't be able to do these diplomas or these long study periods without looking at yourself. So all the questions are phrased for you to explore dark areas of your life that haven't had any light shine on it. You start to realize unconscious narratives about who you thought you were. I think one of my biggest catalysts was that I thought I was someone who I wasn't, so lying to myself.
Who did you think you were?
Well, I thought this is like loving, compassionate, win-win type of guy.
And what did you...
in my romantic life.
And what did you find out?
Well, I was listening to the feedback of my ex-partner, and it wasn't that.
It wasn't that?
It wasn't that. Let's just leave it at that.
Wow.
So, but it was beautiful what I got told. It was beautiful because I was able to investigate the validity of that. Like, but where is that even come from? Is that even true? Let me go investigate that. So I found it. It's not that I found out what she said was true or not. I just found out a lot about myself. So I was able to become more of a master of myself, which gave me access and availability to help a lot more people.
And now, what are you doing exactly? Because we sat down the other day and you were telling me about how you're helping some families turn their children into college athletes, and you're still working with some professionals, but you're also building a life coaching business as well.
Correct.
So I'd love for you to talk into like, what is it that you offer? What do you currently do with your clients?
Thank you, my friend. I mean, yes, you're right. Sometimes I take children who want to go D1 for college. Done it with 13, 14 kids so far. I mean, I can't remember the number, but it's a process that works. And then transition college athletes to the pros. Take pros to top 100 and beyond, into the top 50. So that's the whole tennis side, right? But the other side is more about holistic transformation, about high performance mastery. So I work with some, high performance founders, CEOs of 8 to 9 figure companies that want to transcend and basically strategize with energetic alignment, identity embodiment. Instead of just doing more, it's like, how can we strategize where our energy is in line so that the results happen more efficiently?
How long do you think it takes for a founder or CEO or professional athlete to shift or align their energy so that they can start attracting and manifesting and creating the results that they really desire?
Yeah, I mean, how long is a piece of string? But also in the tennis world, for elite athletes, there is a timeline. So it actually helps with you getting your shit together.
Yeah.
Because you're like, I'm not playing at 45. My body's, my prime is around 30, 35. So there's your timeline. So now that structures and orders us. And I talk a lot about, actually, to your point, that we are more free to explore our boundaries when we're inside of a framework and structure. We feel safe to go and explore ourselves and go beyond what we thought was normal because we know the structure and timeline and framework.